Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me again for my third Shadowrun stream. Your workstation and mission computer. The cool blue tones of the workstation's main menu fill the screen. Check-in box. You have 6 unread messages. Welcome to Hawaii. From Aunti Cheng. To Lady Nightbot. Subject. Welcome to Hawaii. Lady Nightbot. On behalf of your friends at the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce and the Swift Winds Mahjong Parlor, I welcome you to the community of Hawaii and to our new business venture. I have already lined up 3 jobs for you. The details of each are contained in separate computer messages. Remember to check your messages often, as I will update you with new opportunities as they occur. Aunti C. Your mission computer. From Isabel to Lady Nightbot. Subject. Your mission computer. Hey, Lady Nightbot. I've set up your mission computer to automatically collect and collate news reports, information and media that might be of interest to you. Some of the keywords I've got it trolling for are things like Raymond, Duncan, Walled City, etc., etc. I've also patched in a permanent link up to the Hong Kong shard of the Shadowrunners BBS. It's a great place to connect with other runners, sell pay data, get news from the streets, and so on. Don't be shy about taking a look. Isabel. 400 messages. Resources. From Bao Zhangjin to Lady Nightbot. I have been instructed to inform you of the various supplies presented here in Hawaii. Aunti Cheng has cultivated a commercial district of well-stocked and trustworthy vendors. Whoever you choose to do business with, you will be in good hands. Ermine Cafe at Club 88 is an excellent resource for acquiring additional weapons, should you require any. If you are in need of any magical supplies, go to the Parlor of 5 Phases. If you desire training in the path of Adept, seek out Spider Shen. She can help you, as well as supply you with any close quarter weapons that you might desire. Chrome Alley can supply you with cybernetic enhancements and medical supplies. The proprietor, 10-Armed Ambrose, is the cyber surgeon of some repute. Law's Techno Palace is Whampoa run supplier of local decking community. The place is hard to miss, just look for a sign glowing in the sky. If you need drones, Reliable Matthews Robot Bazaar is your best bet, and I pity you. Considering the disrespect that you seem content to casually spew, I would suggest that you acquire a small arsenal. You are more than likely to need it, Mr. Bao. 3 messages. Aunti Cheng to Lady Nightbot, subject serial killer. I've got a problem, Lady Nightbot, and you're going to help me solve it. I do a lot of business with the Whampoans. If you're not familiar with them, I'll forgive you. You are an outsider after all. The Whampoans are a tribe of techno-fetishists and deckers who've taken up residence in the Whampoa Garden area of Hong Kong. They make and trade high-tech goods for people from all over the world. A lot of Nuyen passes through their pasty little fingers and make a lot of money brokering deals between them and the smugglers here in Hawaii. I've hit a snag though. The Whampoan elders, their council of leaders, are being eliminated by a serial killer. They've asked me to dispatch someone to get to the bottom of it and stop the killings, and they're not taking their goods through my turf until I do. So you're going to be my proxy, dear. I don't care how you do it, but I need those murderers stopped. The Whampoans have delegate here in Hawaii by the name of Maximum Law. Speak with him if you wish to know about the Whampoa. He's got a big mouth, but he knows very little of importance. Don't expect much from that half-empty bottle of vinegar. You get your ass down to the Whampoa Garden and talk to Elder Lai. Cheat and steal if you have to, so long as they're convinced that there won't be any more murderers. I want my cut back, and I want it soon. Well, this will be a fun run for me to have. A nice one for me to do tonight. Or today, depending on where you are in the world. Good. I'll tell the elders you're coming. They don't like outsiders, and they might shoot at you if I don't warn them of your arrival. Back to Ritz. Let's walk away for now. We've already got our mission for now. Crafty Zhu. A mild scent, sweet and slightly herbal, is the first thing you notice upon entering the old shop. Its quarters are cramped, made smaller by the display cases and furniture packed inside. The walls are lined with bookshelves, and the tables and chairs are stacked with old tomes. A few titles jump out at you. Lucid Dreaming, an exploration of the inner self. Dream Logic, Nocturnal Visitations. Overall, the place feels lived in, if disorganized. Not quite cluttered, but close. Milling at the front of the store is a shopkeeper, lost in a book of her own. She's tall for a human, probably closer to 2 meters in height. Her physique is typically bookworm, not overweight, but you can't see any muscle definition either. A wrap-around tattoo cover her upper arms and shoulders, but from where you're standing, you can't quite make it out. She fidgets gradually, her eyes raise from her book, and lock onto you. Welcome. Don't believe I've seen you before. She sits down her book and sweeps a stand of black and pink hair behind her ear. Name's Crafty. Lady Nightbot, nice to meet you. She shakes your hand. Her grip is surprisingly firm. So, Lady Nightbot, what can I do for you? I've got spells, chemical reagents, foci, whatever you want really. Might have to do some digging to find it, but if it's magical, it's around here somewhere. I like to see your wares. I like explosions. Might be good. Damage 8, so why not? Charisma. Let's go with corporate. Let's up the body. Outsider. Whampoa Garden. A carnival of chrome and neon. Rife with every manner of technology and artifice one can imagine. The entire area feels like feel of a night market, save that chips are sold in lieu of steamed buns. The vendors hawk the latest strains rather than folk art. Something stalks these streets, hiding just out of sight. It stalks the Whampoa Gardens, the leader of this brand of tech-savvy squatters that have claimed this neighborhood as their own. The streets smell of ozone and fear, and these Whampoans you pass in the MTR station have a haunted, furtive look in their eye. While the killer has struck only the elders thus far, it may only be a matter of time before ordinary residents are menaced as well. The streets of the Whampoa Garden are slick with rain, glittering under the neon glow of myriad signs and holographic displays. The sky reflects the same glow, painting the white apartment blocks with sickly orange and sodium streetlights. The smell of grilling meat mingles with another rarer scents, ozone, engine oil, and high-tech fabrication facilities. Despite the hour, there are plenty of people out and about. You can hear the calls of street vendors and touts, urging people into their store. Isabel wrinkles her nose, scowling darkly. She wraps her arms tightly around her chest, staring off into the distance. Is there a word for feeling nostalgic for a place you can't wait to leave again? I don't miss this place, but I miss the feelings I had when I lived here. Swayed maybe? Isabella shakes her head. No, that's not it. It's close, but... She lets the sentence trail off into nothingness, clamping her mouth shut for a moment. Isabella sighs heavily. This place seems like heaven after the walled city, like the whole world had unfurled in front of me, and anywhere I turned there was the promise of a good life. Turned out this place was just as crappy as everywhere else. Everyone was still in it for themselves. Gobbett claps a hand on Isabel's shoulder, who flinches and pulls away. That's a good life lesson is. I'm serious. At the end of the day, life's a raw deal. You've got yourself and a handful of friends, and that's it. Nothing else. Duncan casts a sidelong glance at Isabel and Gobbett shaking his head. You got some strange ideas about life. Sure, life's a meat grinder, but come on, there's gotta be more to it. More to life than just surviving. Does there? What makes you authority on that? Isabella waves a dismissive hand. I'm done talking about this. Anyway. Isabella turns toward you and points down the street to your left. We're looking for the Whampoa elders. They're gonna be in the Whampoa itself. That's the big ship down the street. I've seen the pictures. It looks like a yacht. Isabella nods, lips pursed. That's the one. Kinda hard to miss. It's been a fixture since late last century. These days, it's just a squat. Shops are family affairs, not corporate ones. Is there anything I should know about the Whampoans? They're all tech heads, tinkerers, and self-taught scientists. Despite the fact that there are no formal education system, everyone here is pretty smart. They appreciate kids who's skilled workers so they can learn a trade. Elder Gao taught me decking, and I left after she got brain fried trying to crack a Mitsuhama network. Elder Ip taught me to shoot. He should still be here. Come on, let's go see what they have to say for themselves. This orc woman is festooned with small circuits, tiny TRID screens and speakers. The TRID screens display snippets of TRID broadcasts from every corner of the world. The tiny speakers play counterpoint with a series of voices speaking Spirithial, Punjab, Kazakh, and other languages. Her expression is haggard, and she fidgets with her fingers as you approach. Welcome! Welcome to Whampoa, my friend. I am Elder Ning. And these are Elders Tang and Ip. Ning gestures to the elf and human, who each incline their head respectfully. Thank you so much for answering our requests for help. We have nowhere else to turn. It's the least I can do. Elder Tang's skin, glowing tattoos writhe and change shape. Tigers become cranes and move on to dragons. We're under a threat. One by one, we elders have been hunted by some monster. As you may have noticed when you arrived, there's been another killing just tonight. Ip crosses his solid chrome arms. Holographic readouts dance constantly over their surface, displaying diagnostic information about their state, operating temperature, servo pressure, and variety of other minutiae. He looks past you, towards Isabel. The prodigal daughter returned once more. I didn't expect to see her back in the Whampoa in my lifetime, Isabel. When you disappeared, Elder Yatunde was very put out. I'm glad that you're still alive. When you chose to walk your own path, I was disappointed, but I still understood why you had to leave. It pauses, tastes the air as he chooses his next words with care. I hope my lessons have helped you prosper. Didn't expect to be back either. Work takes you places though. Isabella shrugs. A moment later, she presses her hand on her pistol, eyes trained on Ip's shoes. I don't care. I don't cart this around for fun, Ip. The lessons kept me alive. Isabella blinks several times, and then she looks up at Ning, her expression clouded. Where is Yatunde anyway? I expect her to be here. Ning shakes her head, sadly. She reaches out her hand towards Isabella, who shrinks away from it. She's dead. So are Gang and Nakamura. And Tong was killed just tonight. So much blood. You have to stop this from continuing. Isabella's expressions remain impassive, but her knuckles grow white as her hands balls up into fists. That's what we're here for. We'll stop the killings. Thank you, Isabel. Ning lifts her hand, wiping away tears from her eyes. What can you tell me about the murderers? They started 2 weeks ago. The first to go was Gang. We found him in his apartment, eviscerated. Ning swallows, grimacing at the painful memory. He'd been torn apart. His head had been ripped completely off, and most of his skin flayed away. There was so much blood it took us a week to clean his apartment. Tang nods, running his palm over his forehead. The rest have been the same. Always at night, always dismembered, each scene was like a nightmare. And every time, no one has seen anything. It's like a ghost. What happened to Tong? The same thing that happens to the rest of the victims. Evisceration and dismemberment. We sent guard to keep people out of his shop, but he'll let you in. When did he die? Sometime earlier tonight. He'd locked up his shop, but Ip stopped by to ask about some skill chips he had. The door was unlocked and inside. Ning lifts her hands helplessly. She opens her mouth, but no words come out. Seeing Ning's inability to continue, Ip takes over. Inside looked more like a bad horror sim, just like all the other murderers. It had to have happened after sundown, because I saw his shop was open when I was on my way to get some noodles for dinner. Why didn't you call the police? The Hong Kong police force isn't welcome here. They've tried to force us out several times before, or come hunting for someone to pin a crime on. We do a lot of favors for local gangs and triads, handling their matrix security, fixing up their gear, and making sure they have access to the Hong Kong Shadowlands hub. We're too valuable a resource for them to lose, so they protect us when the HKPF or anyone else decides we're an easy target. They'll handle our physical security, and we make sure to send the message via the Matrix. The last time HKPF made trouble, we started airing the assistant chef's laundry over the grid. They got the picture and backed off. Have you made any enemies lately? Ning shrugs helplessly. Not that I can think of. We kept to ourselves. We buy and sell technology. We're not mercenaries or criminals. We're merchants and deckers. And even if someone was cheating in a deal, this kind of response is unthinkable. Whatever did this wasn't human. The violence and savagery. It's a monster, whatever it is. Plenty of metahumans are monsters too, Ning. Just because it's horrible doesn't mean it's supernatural. What do the Whampoa elders do? Isabella snorts derisively. They make the rules and kick people out who don't obey them. They're a bunch of petty tyrants, that's what. You're being unfair, Isabel. Our laws are for the good of the community. Tang turns to address you. We keep the Whampoa and its residents safe. We've reviewed trade agreements with outsiders to see if they're good for the community. We provide a guiding vision, like a town council. I can respect that. I'm glad you understand. This community is fragile, and the authorities bear us a lot of ill will. A single misstep could spell our end. I am the invoker of spirits. I commune with the spirits of machines, ask them for blessings, and pass those blessings on to the people here. I heal the sick and ensure feng shui of our habitats is as good as it can be, given our confines. She's a shaman. That's all. That's all. She's got some kooky spin on it. Claims her totem is some kind of an all-encompassing machine god that lives in circuitry. Isabella pats her deck, looking at Ning. Ancient gods and ancestors are one thing. My deck? It's mine. I built it. The only spirit it's got in there are the ESPs I load it up with. Ning gives Isabella a look of deep sadness. Just because you cannot see or touch a thing doesn't mean it does not exist. Just because you do not believe in it does not mean it does not protect you from afar. I can't touch programs either, but at least I can prove they have an effect on the physical world. Your superstitions are just that. Bullshit. Isabella glances at you, jerking a thumb towards Tang. This guy treats drones like they're living things. Is that right? Tang extends his arms palms up. As you watch the tattoos, therein shift into complex mathematical formulas. I am the first and glorious servo. I study patterns, repair machinery, and teach others how to attune themselves to the wonders of automation. The blessed Autofab is my shop, and shop and preview, where we make the drones we use and sell. As for me, I serve as the resplendent voltage spike. Ip smiles crookedly. That means I shoot people who try to screw with us. It's a fancy title for head of security. That's all for now. It might be wise to ask the residents of Whampoa Garden if they have seen or heard anything after gone to Tong's sensory carnival. They may have seen or heard things we have not. Good to know. Tong's security. Porter Lamb, at your service. The elders told me that you would be coming. They'll tell you what happened to Tong. Just the basics. Well, nothing's basic about this. I've seen people shot, stabbed, beaten to death. Hell, I've even seen a corpse that was so dry and desiccated I could have sworn a vampire got to it. None of that's got anything to do with this. Brace yourself and go on in. Tong's Sensory Carnival looks like a scene out of a B-grade slasher sim. The cloying scent of incense hangs thick and pungent in the air, emanating from the small shrine in the corner of the shop. Unfortunately, it does nothing to cover up the reek of death and clotted blood. Despite the ragged remains of elder tongues littering the floor, the rest of the shop appears to be in good order, at least at first glance. Nothing is broken, tipped over, or otherwise ransacked. As you're about to step further into the room, you glance at the ceiling and walls. The blood from Tong's body isn't just confined to where his remains lie. Dry blood is spread about the walls and the ceilings as well. Tong's body is a ruined mess. The destroyed ruin of the face is barely recognizable, and what is left of his body would best be described as savage. All of his limbs have been torn off, and a pile of flayed skin lies next to the remains of the Whampoan elder. The Whampoan's clothing has all but been reduced to rags and tissue by cuts and tears, apparently sustained during the flaying. At this point, the only thing holding what's left of his body into semblance of a human form is the hair-thin fiber optics of his cyberware. Gobbert puts a hand over her mouth, speaking in an uncharacteristic serious tone. Sweet heaven, Lady Nightbot. I haven't seen anything like this since Auntie Wong tried to stash some cred sticks in a devil's rat nest. It takes a lot to turn my stomach. But we sure have a winner today. This is seriously messed up. I'll second that. This isn't a murder. This is more like, dunno, a feeding frenzy. If I went for this skin, I'd say Tong stepped on a goddamn mine or something. Spell casting conjuration. Use astral perception to sense the body. You take a deep breath, allow your senses to expand into the astral space. The colors in the room bleed away, replaced with the vibrant light of emotions of the spirit world. Surprisingly, no emotions of fear or anger pervade the room. The abiding emotions of the room stepped in is one of perfunction satisfaction, as if someone had accomplished an important task. It would seem likely that Tong was surprised. If he was not, it would be certain that you would feel lingering fear within the room. Whoa, really? Gobbert takes a moment to center herself and stares off into space. Shortly thereafter, she shakes her head and looks back at you. This is strange, Lady Nightbot. You're right, though. It definitely didn't see it coming. Leave the body alone. Blood on the wall. The walls are covered in splattered and smeared blood, most of which had hardly hardened into a crusty, congregated paste. Thick tracks of it run literally. It looks like the blood has been deliberately smeared. Hey, Lady Nightbot, I don't know a whole lot about science and all that, but I know what blood looks like when it hits the wall. This isn't natural. Somebody's deliberately smearing blood all over these walls. See how it looks like it's got paint trails? That's because someone used Tong's body parts as a brush. So they painted the walls with blood? Why? Do I look like a psychologist to you? Maybe because they're a freak. Maybe they're one of those sick serial killers that sees the murderers as art. I got no clue. All I know is what normal blood looks like on a wall. This ain't it. Some people have a bad grasp of art. I knew this guy in Guangdong who used to make music out of stray radio static and panic button calls, called it crisis wave. It was awful. Bathroom. Tong's bathroom is immaculate, and the drains are tiny. Whatever killed him didn't exit through here. Desk fan. Tong's desk drawers are open, and the safe that's built into the side has been opened. There's no sign of tampering, and the green light next to the word unlocked is blinking. Whoever opened the safe did it with the key fob. Inside there's several blank cred sticks, but no sign of any with money in them. Looks like somebody looted his stash. A guy like this would have kept only empty cred sticks in his safe. This is a Yamaha 95,000V SimSynth. a device for mixing and mastering SimSynth chips. Several drive bays are empty and all of the chip jacks are empty. The screen is flashing a repetitive error message. Warning. Requested files cannot be found. Please return drivers to bay and try again. Have Isabella debug the system. Isabella rattles out some commands on the synth's keyboards, stepping away after a few seconds with a look of satisfaction on her face. There. I've put the driver warning on suspend. It's in diagnostic mode only though. Maybe we'll learn something. Maybe not. Yamaha Sim OS 5.23. System diagnostic check. Memory. Okay. Drive error. Assist bus. Okay. Beginning core dump. Please wait. The long debug spew that scrolls along the synth's screen is filled with numbers indicating recent files, play lengths, keyframes, and assist peak levels. Based on the number you're seeing, Tong's SimSynths have been hacked to remove the peak controller levels from the chips he's been burning. The required operation to make BTL chips. The delta wave output for these chips pushes them dangerously into the brain-burning territory. The file catalog for the high-peak BTLs indicates all the files and burnt chips should be stored on the massive drives, and whatever was in the empty chip jacks. Somebody's cleaning out Tong's BTL stash. Alright, so if he wasn't in fear, he didn't even know it was happening. Let's go to you, because you're the first one that had that little speech bot thing above his head. Zippy. This orc is busily snacking on some steamed buns. As you approach, he wipes off one of his hands and sticks it out toward you. Hey, stranger. Nice to meet you. Zippy Toe Tag. At your service. How are you liking Whampoa Garden? I'm Lady Nightbot. Nice to meet you, Zippy. Nice to meet you too. Listen, I know it's a little forward for me just to say hello and whatnot, but I'm interested in giving you a hand if I can. Zippy gestures expansively at the squalid neon-lit streets of the Whampoa Garden. This is my home, at least for the time being, and I'd like to stop these killings. We've never met before this, but I know exactly who you are. You're my replacement. The elders had me autopsy what was left of the elder gang and the elder Nakamura after they got ripped apart. But I didn't want to dig any deeper. So since I don't know you, and I can smell a Shadowrunner a mile away, you've got to be the outsider that were asking to stop the killings, right? Zippy tilts his head back, obviously pleased at his amateur deduction. Very astute, that's right. See, I have good eyes. A lot of good eyes, actually. If you're in the market for replacements only slightly used, and they only come from certified donors, I swear. Hearty belly laugh erupts from the orc, and he slaps one of his thighs in elations. Man, I killed myself. Pretty funny, you stand-up comedian. With jokes like that, are you kidding me? I'm one of the only trained surgeons around here. I keep the other opponents healthy. Gotta practice down the road. Blind Chen's a pretty good cyberdoc, but he's basically an implant specialist, and that's it. How'd you end up here? I did my residency back in UCAS. Could have become a real MD too if things hadn't gone south for unrelated reasons. Zippy opens his coat, revealing a cyber deck. He pats it proudly. I also deck a little, but I'm better at slicing skin than I see. Whampoa Garden seems a good fit for me. You must have a lot of customers. That's the chip truth. I have to charge to cover my costs and eat, but it's damn near free service. There's always a waiting list, but it's good, honest work. I like helping my neighbors and the community. We all look out for each other. Somebody messes with one of us, they mess with all of us. That kind of community is rare as gold these days. How many places have an ethos like that? Not a damn corpse, that's for sure. I've lived a lot of places, down my fair share of shadowrunning, but this place is special. It's been a long time since I really felt like anywhere was a real home. Zippy looks off past you, towards the Whampoa Garden streets. His expression grows wistful, like he's remembering something from a long time ago. I'm sure I'll move again, but not for a while. I'm not done with the city. I'm not done with the city or these people. So it is fairly peaceful around here. For the most part, other than these killings, we don't have much in the way of problems. We do information security for the triads, and that makes us fairly impervious to anyone that wants to start trouble. Anyone starting something, we hit them with the Matrix, while our triad friends hit them in the meat space. Some small-time gangers have tried pushing in here before, but they backed off when they figured out they weren't just picking a fight with Tang and his guys, but with both the Red Dragon and Yellow Lotus. They got the message real quick. What was left of them anyway. Let me ask you about the Whampoa guns. Sure thing. What do you want to know? What are your thoughts on these murders? There is a sharp intake of breath as Zippy shakes his head. Pretty gruesome business. Gang died from a broken neck. Looks like someone had wrenched it around, and his arms and legs were cut off. Some flayed away too. Nakamura had his throat ripped out by someone with pretty sharp teeth. At first I thought it was a devil rat, but the teeth marks were all from something with a humanoid jaw. It didn't look like Yatunde. From what I saw at a distance, it was the same story. Didn't see much point, since I'd seen it twice already. As for Tong, from what Porter told me, it was Gang and Nakamura all over again. You take a look at him yet? Yeah, it's the same as you described from the others. Sippy shakes his head. Damn. I liked Tong, but BTL business is unsavory. But the man had to eat, and his regular sims were great. Generally all around nice guy. Friendly with everyone, never had anyone mad at him. There ain't no justice, let me tell you. What can you tell me about the elders? Sippy laughs, shrugging. Well, they're an eclectic bunch, that's for sure. Where to start? Ming's the spiritual leader around here. She's the voice of the Whampoans, I guess. A lot of her close friends are really more followers since she's something of a priest than for the machine spirits. Maybe it's a cultural thing for people who grew up here, but it's never a cult for me. Still, she makes a damn fine pot of tea. It's the muscle, and has a encyclopedic knowledge of cyber and bioware. Definitely a good guy to have watching your back. Not too friendly, but you know how it is. You get a lot of cyber, people start wondering if you'll tear their arms off. Zippy makes a chopping gesture with one hand. He's got moves straight out of the Blood Carnival 3, The Reckoning. Terrible movie, but great fight choreography. What about Tang? I don't know much about him, but I think he's got some kind of a fetish for automation. Found him cooing over some trids of automated delivery drones in a warehouse once. He works with drones, has a shop called the Blessed Autofab. He has raving about his efficiency of the movement patterns or something. You already know about Tong. Ran Sims, BTLs, skill chips. Gan used to be a city planner before he had a nervous breakdown and got involved in some statistical analysts. Zippy pauses to collect these thoughts. Nakamura came from Fukuoka and was interested in entertainment, Trid mostly. Spent a lot of time analyzing subliminals in ads. Then there was Magpie. She was the chief decker. Hot as hell against IC, and built her own hardware. Salty old woman, though. Never met anyone who was quite as shill or nasty as when she was mad. She was mad most of the time. Tell me more about her. Not really much to tell, really. Zippy shrugs non-committedly. Maybe a month ago she just turned up and disappeared. I went to her shop one day, and she just wasn't open. Nobody's seen her since. Why would she disappear? No idea. One day she was here, next, poof. At first I thought she was just on vacation since she had mentioned wanting to see the Kingdom of Hawaii someday. But it didn't feel right. She should have at least told me she was leaving. It seems mighty suspicious to me. Nobody else seems to care what happened to her, probably because she pissed them all off so bad. Is there any place you think I should start looking? You might want to check out her shop. It's all locked up, but the other elders have a spare key. Couldn't hurt to look around, and even though Magpie was always butting her heads with the other elders, they wouldn't have any reason not to let you in. What do you mean by they were butting heads? Magpie and the others never saw eye to eye. She was contrary for the sake of it. Most of the rest had a grand vision for what they wanted for the neighborhood to become. Magpie just wanted to deck. She was only an elder because they needed someone with her matrix chops. The last big argument was between her, Ning, Ip, and Nakamura. It was over something relatively trivial. I think Nakamura wanted to expand the private TRID business into the Matrix, and she just absolutely refused. Why did she refuse? She said something about not using up valuable bandwidth for trivial entertainment. Bullshit. Anyway, it went from there into a rant about how she was going to let Tang expand his drone business any further, because it would get too much Megacorp attention. They accused her of blocking them just because she could, which is probably true. Lots of screaming. What do you mean blocking them? Everybody needs her matrix for their business to run properly. There are other deckers. Me, Say, or Bo Nebby. Jebby? But she had the infrastructure. If their projects didn't interest her, she wouldn't give them the time of day. She's a real hardhead about having her time wasted. But she figured if she's not at least in something, she had no value objectively. Kind of a major blind spot if you ask me. Sounds like she was critical. Yes and no. She was, but since she disappeared, Elder Ip's taken over running the Matrix infrastructure. He's not as good as she was, but his experience with drones makes him the best candidate. They wouldn't entrust something like that to anyone who wasn't an elder. So there you go. See you around, Zippy. Get the key to Magpie's shop. Okie dokie. Let me in. Is there anything I can do for you, Lady Nightbot? Why didn't you tell me about Elder Magpie disappearing? Why would we have? Her departure from the Whampoa isn't relative to your investigation. It happened before the killings began. I'm certain she's just sulking somewhere. Ning's tone is profoundly indifferent. No doubt she'll come waltzing back next month all full of attitude that life dared to go down without asking her permission. If she does, we'll welcome her back, despite our problems with her behavior. Her skills make her extremely valuable. I've taken over maintenance of our Matrix infrastructure in her absence, but I'm nowhere near her level. The best I can do is ensure nothing breaks down until she returns. I'd like to have a look around her shop. Do you have the key? Yes, but there's a lot of sensitive equipment in there. including our community service. We don't let anyone who's not one of the Whampoa elders in there. Why would you need to have a look around there? Listen, you wanted me to find the killer. I'm going to do that. I have to explore every possibility. Very well. Take the key and look around. Just don't break anything or shut the servers off. Is there anything else? I'll be going. Are you guys still huddled around a body or something? Alrighty. Display cases. This bin is full of assorted chips, peripherals, and add-on modules for cyberdecks. They don't seem to be arranged in any coherent fashion and are spread across the felt surface. Search through the bin. You sift through the display case and search for anything that might prove interesting. Isabel peers past you into the bins as you search. That's interesting. There's a lot of storage memory, I/O handlers, and active memory in this bin. I'm not seeing any MPCP hardware, response increase chips, or anything relating to hot shit decking Magpie was supposed to be into. In fact, you couldn't even build a full deck with this without the MPCP. It'd just be a glorified comlink. What do you think it means? Well, if I had to guess, I'd say somebody's cleaned her out. MPCP. Response increase, biofeedback filters and all that. They're easy to move, expensive, and highly illegal. All the rest of the crap is good, but it's nothing if you couldn't pick it up any electronical shop. You'd have to know what you're looking for, though. Only a good decker would know what they're seeing. Could Magpie have taken them with her? Isabella gestures towards one of the other displays. A pair of small cyberdecks sit inside the locked case. I guess so, but if she did that, why did she leave the completed cyberdecks? Though I think this was theft. Open server. In front of the server's case hangs open. The inner machinery quiet and without power. A clipboard is stuck to the side by a piece of duct tape. Its papers filled with long lists of programs and their prices. A quick glance over the program sheet reveals names like Bugs and Black Hammer. Undoubtedly this was Magpie's attack program, storage machine. Somebody's removed the drives, and I'm sure it wasn't Magpie. Here, look. Isabella gestures to the innards of the open server, near the back. A solitary red light blinks. The main drives were disconnected properly, but it looks like she modded the server to have backup drives with its own battery-based power supply. If it was Magpie, she'd have taken it too. Crap, this is Fuji XB1000, and it looks like the battery power ran out a while ago. The XB1000s are constant write drivers. They're dirt cheap and have a ton of capacity, but if they run out of power, they lose their data. We're not going to be able to get anything off these drives. Magpie's desk. Magpie's desk is kind of messy. Most people only associate with a rat's nest, hoarders and deckers. The surface of the desk is littered with cigarette butts, half-finished cans of soy calf, and scrap electronics. A towering pile of empty instant noodles bowls sits next to it. The sides are blazoned with Honest Wang's Instant Old Time Lamian. The depiction of a line of top hat wearing caterpillars dancing with canes. Hey, awesome! I didn't think anybody but me liked Honest Wang's noodles. Flavor like you've never tasted in the packaging of instant noodles. I promise. Gobbert taps the side of her container. See? This one's cheese curry broccoli. I don't know why it's never caught on, honestly. Duncan shoots a sideways glance, mumbling in sotto voice. Gee, who could pass up the delicious taste of cheese, curry, and freeze-dried vegetables? Gobbert seems oblivious to Duncan's sarcasm. I know, right? People out here have no idea what kind of culinary delights they're missing. Search the desk. You gingerly read around the desk, doing your best to avoid most disgusting piles and spills. It isn't easy. The desk's drawers and stuffed to overflow with receipts, cigarette packs, optical chips, and cables. Most of the contents are boring, useless, and disgusting. While searching one of the bottom drawers, however, a low-quality tin lockbox catches your eye. Someone has pried the latch off, leaving a ragged hole where the lock should be. The interior of the box has several sleeves for storing keycards, all of which are empty. A small note is taped to the interior of the box. Spare stockroom keys. The door is in the rear of Miss Yang's restaurant. Do not lose these. Use only if I'm not available to open the storeroom. Stockroom, huh? So who broke the lockbox to get the keys out? Maybe it was one of the elders. They had the key for the place. I guess it's possible. But why would they leave the lockbox here? They could just pack up and leave it and take it back to the Whampoa. Leaving it here is sloppy. And look at this. Isabella points out a broken latch. Most of the elders could crack a maglock. This was somebody in a hurry. Leave it alone. We got something in the bathroom? You search Magpie's bathroom. There isn't much in here. Toothbrush, toilet paste, some hairpins, and a collection of cheap makeup. Their combination bath and shower unit has minor flakes of a dry, reddish substance near the drain. Blood. Dried blood. Prying open the drain covers, it looks like quite a bit of it was shed here as well. Shit. Maybe Magpie didn't take the trip after all. With that amount of blood, I'm guessing someone killed her quietly and then drained her body in the bath. It'd make it cleaner to relocate. This doesn't seem to match with the killer's other scenes though. I'm thinking there's a lot more going on with these murderers than we're initially told. First they don't even mention Magpie to us, and now that it looks like she's been killed. Something's not right here, Lady Nightbot. Let's not mention this to the elders. If they're hiding anything, they may start cleaning up their tracks better. Man, I've been doing a lot of talking today. This man has a tired, world-weary demeanor about him. His eyes track your movement with penetrating critical precision. Something about him, the lines in his eyes, perhaps makes you suspect he's seen a lot of terrible things. He lifts his cup of cheap soy calf as you approach. Let me guess. You're a freelancer the elders are paying to look into the murders around here. How'd you know? You've got the right kind of eyes. Like you're looking for something. I don't seem to trust anyone. Outsiders don't generally wander around Whampoa Garden without an escort. Locals don't make them feel too welcome unless they've been invited. And there's only one reason to be inviting Shadowrunners out here. Call me Demergo. I'm not one of the Whampoans, but I've been here long enough that they don't think twice about me being here. Demergo drains the last of his soy calf in a large gulp. So, what you've found so far? Awfully curious, a random guy. Professionally curious. I used to be with the New York Police Department as part of their thaumaturgical research division. Part of the CSI branch, except I did the magical investigation while the other guy pulled prints and checked blood samples. Demergo tosses the soy cup towards a nearby garbage can. It bounces around the rim and rolls inside. When I hear about shit like this happening, I keep my ear to the ground. Old habits, you know? So why aren't you investigating it? Elder Ning asked me to look into the killings after the first murder. She couldn't afford my fee, so I took a pass. It's not just money either. Demergo shudders, folding his arms across his chest. You see that stuff day after day, you pay a price. It eats away at you. You don't know what it's like to feel all that sickness and anger every day. To be asked to pick up a murder weapon and relive somebody's death. Feel it going into your neck, pleading in the voice of the dead woman for her killer to spare you. These days I'd rather interrogate the living. Thanks. Sounds awful. Awful? It's more than awful. It's a goddamn nightmare is what it is. One I couldn't wake up from a long time. Sometimes you have to cut and run. Start fresh, at least now I can pick my own jobs. I can read objects, it's called psychometry. A little trick I managed to pick up. Don't really know how. I hold something, I can tell you what happened to it, who owned it, how it killed someone, if someone loved it or was afraid of it. Useful, but it'll tax your heart. And before you ask, no, I'm not going to read anything you find. I already told Ning I didn't want any part of this. You want advice, I'll give you that. But I'm not getting down in further than that. Aside from that, is there anything else I can help you with? What can you tell me about the Whampoans? I don't know much. Even though I've been here almost 2 years, I'm an outsider. They don't really accept anyone who's not much of a tech nut as they are. I'm just the crazy mage that lives down the road. Demergo pauses and looks off into the distance as he collects his thoughts. Ip's got some heavy-duty cyberware, basically an enforcer for the rest of the council. He doesn't seem to set much policy. Ning is a shaman that worships machine spirits. It's all a bunch of hookum. If you ask me, magic is magic. Whatever you want to call the source is fine by me. But don't ask me to believe in your great spirit of electronics. As for everybody else, they tend to be okay. Be an okay bunch. A bit strange, but that's fringe culture for you. They're scourged. They scrounge tech, rebuild it, sell it off. Some of them even have their own auto fab shops. Their stuff's pretty high quality too. People from all over Asia come here and they need something rare or unusual. Tight-knit little community, all things considered. What can you tell me about the murders? They started a couple of weeks ago. Elder Gang was the first to go. That's when Nang asked me if I could look into them. He was ripped apart, arms wrenched out of their sockets, skin flared all the way with razor-sharp knife. The rest has been the same. Whatever did it didn't care about being a clean death. Demergo lowers his voice, leaning in towards you so that only you can hear. The funny thing is, the Hong Kong police force was out here a few weeks before that, maybe a month ago. Tops. I know that doesn't seem much, but the Whampoans don't usually let the police in here. That by itself is odd enough, but it gets even stranger. The officials were loaded for bear too. Big guns, heavy armor, the NBC seals, the works. They went into the parking garage near here, and there was some kind of a gunfight. Never made it back out. When backup showed up, the Whampoans chased them away. Why would they let cops in to chase them away? That's exactly the kind of question you should be asking, and that the elders refused to answer when I asked. Demergo shrugs. Go take a look yourself if you want. Watch out though, gangs taking residence up there. Dealing drugs and BTLs. They call themselves the Red Spear. Not too violent if you don't push them. But be careful what you say. Dong wasn't afraid when he died. He was caught by surprise. Demergo arches an eyebrow. That's not what I would have expected. With the amount of mess each scene, the victims should have left behind one hell of a lot of fear and pain. Are you sure? Very sure. Tong died tonight, so the astral signature hasn't had time to fade. There was only a sense of perfunctory accomplishment. Then it sounds like this wasn't a crime of passion. A planned attack would have of that kind of resonance. In my experience, it's possible that the gore show is to throw off anyone looking for an actual reason. Demergo closes his eyes and starts to nod. Yeah, if I wanted to kill someone and get away with it, I'd try to point the finger at some kind of monster. Demergo opens his eyes and smiles a thin, humorless grin. Basic Investigation 101. It's usually the simplest explanation, but don't discount other possibilities. You think the mess was accidental? It's possible. It's a possibility. Ask yourself this. If the mutilation happened after Tong's death, why would a killer perform that kind of ritual? Serial killers who engage in that kind of ritual don't feel perfunctory about it. In my experience, it tends to feel a lot like taking communion. It's a religious or sexual feeling most of the time. If this didn't feel that way, I don't think the killer's actually pathological. See you later. Let's hide. Oh, hello. There we go. PDA. A small PDA sits on the table. The dull glow of the screen illuminates from the surface around it. It does not appear to be locked. Check recent emails. Garage. Wilson, we've got the go-ahead from the Whampoa elders to move into the parking garage. Whatever fight happened there has really spooked the locals, and they're suspicious about moving back into the place that could be filled with angry ghosts. It's a bunch of bull, but whatever. The bottom line is, we have a new place to set up shop. The only request are that we pay a percentage of our sales back to them, and we get to keep any noisy out of turf works for me. Noisy out of our turf works for me. Kang? I don't know where Kang is. Last I heard from him, He was checking out the storm drains, looking for a place to use as a drop so we wouldn't have to stash all the chips up here in the garage. When we came back, he said something about seeing a monster down there. He described it man-sized, but covered in gore and speaking some kind of monster language. He was so spooked he dropped his keys to the drain on his way out. Total idiot, so I told him to take a few days off. If you're still looking for him, check his flat in Whampoa Garden. He's probably drunk off his ass or something. Let's check the murderers. I don't know if any of you have heard about the elders that have been picked off one by one, but stay out of it. They've been nice enough to let us set up shop here, but their business isn't our business. If anyone asks you to look into it, tell them to talk to me. I don't want to be mixed up in whatever politics. They've ripped those crazy tech junkies apart. Leave it alone. Bloodstains. Dried blood and bullet holes pocket the floor pillars and walls of the parking garage. Judging by the amount of blood staining the floor, multiple people died here. To call the scene a bloody would be to do a disservice. This was a massacre of tremendous proportion. Look at this, Lady Nightbot. Duncan points to several scratches on the floor and the pillars. These scratches look like they were from a long-bladed weapon, like a sword or a machete. Let's go have a look at this over here. Dried blood and clots clog the drain. As you look closer, however, something catches your eye. An off-red color that doesn't match the hues of the gore around the drain. Bending closer, it appears to be a small nugget of some sort. Fish the item out. The nugget, upon closer inspection, is a chunk of some kind of synthetic ferroplastic. It's got a ragged edge, as if it was broken off a larger object. A number of small markings are particularly obscured by the scratches. Examine the marks more closely. Brushing away some of the dust, you peer at the fragment of a bit of ferroplastic. The scratches and markings on the nugget look like Chinese, but despite how closely you look, you can't decipher their meaning. After a moment, you realize the reason. Not only are the markets fragments, the language is actually Japanese. The characters are close enough to be familiar, but too different for you to read. Maybe the expert in armor or foreign languages could help. You know, I'm not sure about the Whampoa Garden speaks Japanese, but Wing Kei Kwong has a shop down the Whampoa itself. By where we met the elders, if anybody around here would know about the armor, it would be her. This woman sports brilliantly hued hair that shift colors, scintillating with every passing moment. She is powerfully built, a natural athlete, or someone who works out a great deal. Notably, a large shotgun rests on an arcade cabinet next to her. She affords you a short glance as you approach when she speaks. You note a particularly lyrical accent to her voice. Something I can help you with there, friend. You're throwing off me game, and I'm trying to beat me best score. That's some interesting hair you got. Well, sure, it isn't the reason why they call me Rainbow. Rainbow Smile. She kicks one foot forward, the shotgun laying against her cabinet. The shooter's why there's also a smite. After a few moments, Rainbow's game is suddenly over. Her tank obliterated by a barrage of air-to-ground missiles. She hisses her breath in through clenched teeth. Piss on ya ma! A right robbery that was. Right then. Rainbow shakes her head again and turns to face you fully. You don't seem like the Whampoans. They're all that might touch, dear. Maybe you are too. But you don't advertise it like they do. What's your story? I'm looking for the murders that have been happening. That's some nasty work. Bodies hacked up, chunks bitten out of them. Make sure you're loaded for something big and ugly for certain. Yeah, it really is. I've only ever played the first one of the series. Poor Clementine. Where are you from? I can't place the accent. Born and raised in Dublin, down on the banks of the Liffey. Spent most of my early life there working security on sacred spaces. You know, historical sites or underdeveloped lands. The Green Movement has been big in those days. It was a bit like being a park ranger, but sure didn't beat some dead-end desk job. Spent a lot of time around country Dublin and Wicklow. I always loved animals, and I found out being a ranger put me in close with them. It was a good time, yeah? Making sure the buddy new species like the bogies and the centaurs didn't upset the ecology of the Wicklow National Park much. Also kept the nastier bits of the usage from running amok across populated areas. What's that, an eat whiskey? Nay, each usage. Usage just the word for fair water, which is how whiskey got its name. It's a cannibal horse, basically, if you've never heard of an each usage. Be glad. It drags you into the bog and kills you. Sometimes people call them kelpies, on account the water plants they pop out of. Anyway, as I was saying, problem was I started to develop this wee knack, just a small thing. I keep magic from working when I'm around. Spells don't go, spirits fall apart, and the para critters get real feisty, yeah? To make things worse, this was around the time Liam O'Connor threw his corp and formed Tir Nanog. With all of his fancy talk about elves and ancient magic, it was a bit of a scandalous to have a woman guarding ancient sites. That wasn't just mundane, but also killed magic around her. So I got fired. You're older than Tir Nanog? Bang on, I didn't look a day over 25, did I? Rainbow flexes an arm, grinning wildly. I'm Irish, not one of them noggins packing the punters, the lot of them. Always going on about their ancestral lands and glory to the past and all that bullshit. I saw them kick dozens of old Irish families off their land just because their ears weren't pointy enough. Or they didn't meet some stupid arbitrary criteria of old nobility. It was that kind of thing that brought back the IRA, just like the bad old days of Troubles. The skivers in the new tier didn't pay for the land they took. They just hand a packet of bullies with guns. Rainbow scrunches her face up in disgust, sneers and mock spits at the ground. I've never been sympathetic to the little guy in a fight. They offered to pay me for my help, so I said yes. Simple as that. So you became a terrorist? Don't be so dramatic. They fixed me up with a cyber stitcher and gave me a lot of the kit I've got in me now, in exchange for going overseas to work for them. Smuggling, running guns, making contact in Europe, same kind of shite all revolutionary groups do. Seeing as how me own farm got kicked out of their house, I was glad to do it. I still do work for them these days, but there's a lot less of it. Lady Di cracked down on dissidents, but good. What are you doing in the Whampoa Gardens? Me? I'm a bit of a big game hunter these days. I get into strange places, look for some kind of power critter I've never seen before, and then I put a bullet in it. Only the nasty ones though. No point in hunting a Taliscat or such. It's only things like gargoyles, bargeist and whatnot. All of the work I did with them in me youth, it does a good job of keeping me alive. I was out in a Jacaranda Jakarta last year, hunting one of them Indonesian vampires. You ever heard of him? Call him Layak or Penagallans. Depending on who you ask, their head and guts come out of the body cavity. They fly around like a giant messy pile of pasta. Rainbow bares her teeth and epitomizes bloating around. Took me a solid 2 months to track her down, but I did. Once the job was done, I asked myself, okay, Rainbow, here's the best place in East Asia to find some action. So Hong Kong it was. All the Kai what sits here mean a bigger concentration of odd critters than you can usually find in the city. Been spending a lot of time down in the storm drain these days. I heard rumor of a rat king down there, where a mess of devil rats get all tied together into some kind of big awful rat beast. Haven't tracked him down yet, but I figured it's only a matter of time, yeah? She pats down the barrel of her shotgun affectionately. Do you have a key to the storm drains? Of course I do. How else would I get down in looking for strange creepy crawlies, yeah? Why'd you ask? Can I borrow it? I want to investigate something down there. Aye, sure. Watch you step that down there, though. The drains are a mite bigger. The drains are a mite bigger than people normally expect. Rainbow tosses you the key. Best of luck. See you, Rainbow. Now, are you... No. Do I need... This is the woman I needed to speak to. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to Quack Atelier, home of the finest clothing in Whampoa Garden. I am the owner, Master Tailor, Wing K. Quack. How may I be of service? How may I service you today? I didn't expect Whampoa Garden to have tailors in it. Many people don't. There's a mistaken impression that we Whampoans are only interested in technology and the Matrix. But even technologists need clothing, don't they? And many of us gravitate towards the line of work where added protection is required. I myself am a materialistic scientist as well as a keen follower in fashion trends. What kind of materials science? Fiber related, of course, primarily aramid fibers, graphene composites, and dilatants. It affords me a certain unique perspective when designing clothing that is not only beautiful, but defensive as well. I specialize in high fashion body armor, similar to the kind crafted by Security Tech off Vashon Island, but with much more personal touch. Do you know what kind of armor this was from? Perhaps. Let me see it and I'll tell you what I can find out. Wing K holds the armor piece up to her eye, taking out the jeweler's loupe to look at it more closely. Japanese markings. I don't recognize all of them, but this is the first one. This first one is Raku. Rarely recognizable to anyone who's used to seeing the name in Hanzi. The composite appears to be high density ferroceramics, probably boron carbide with an interwoven bioarmid mesh. The staining on the edges suggests it contains pockets of silica suspended in polyethylene glycol, similar to the commercially sold gel pack technology. The armor could have withstood a significant amount of impact force. Even standard 7.62mm rounds wouldn't have had much of a chance of penetrating it. What could penetrate it? High velocity rounds with tungsten carbide penetrator would be the most common. This is the kind of thing armor-piercing, discarding sabot rounds were designed to defeat. A decoated melee weapon would do it as well, but there would be some kind of splintering at the edge. Same case with an EX explosive round. We'd see spalling on the backside. Wing Kai hands the armor piece back to you. Whoever shot this off the owner came loaded with the right kind of weaponry to get the job done. That's for certain. And you don't carry that kind of ordnance around unless you're sure of what you're facing. It's just too expensive for common to carry. Later. I don't need to talk to you just yet. I've still got some white noddering to do. Pardon me. Storm drains. Despite the darkness, you see something glinting at the edge of the drain. Looking closer, it appears to be a necklace chain of some kind. It's become caught in the drain's gate, narrowing, avoiding following down the deep pit. Take the necklace. Lifting the necklace out of the drain and turning it over in your hand, it's a simple silver pendant on a chain. The silver pendant depicts a long-tailed bird in a flight. A magpie. I'll save it here, just in case. Oh, it's not going to let me save. What about now? Nope. Fine. How many people are in here? There's only 4 of them. Yowaslav says the boat will be ready tomorrow morning. He's gotten everything arranged with the port authority. We moved the goods to his warehouse. He'll handle the loading them onto the ship, and we get paid right then and there. The orc spits on the ground. I'll be glad to be done with this filthy place. Galena. I will too. I hate having to hide in these damn drains. It stinks down here. I can hear the devil rats running down the hallways. It's messed up. And it's disgraceful. We shouldn't have to put up with this bullshit. And Alexander still isn't back from his little trip. We'll have to leave him behind if he doesn't get back here soon. I know, Galena. Until Andre says that we're in the clear from the Triads, we can't be seen with the goods on the streets. They'll find us. They'll go to Vladivostok in sausage casings. Those red dragons Madaki don't screw around when it comes to protecting their turf. You know, maybe Alexander was stupid and they caught him. Either way, we'll have to lug his crap through the drains for a few clicks. Several boxes near the 2 women bear a distinctive label. A magpie in flight, the same emblem you saw stamped on Magpie's equipment in her shop. The orc woman sniffs the air suspiciously, and her eyes dart towards the dark tunnel you're standing in. Before you have a chance to get out of sight, she locks eyes with you. The orc lifts her chain as she regards you, cracking her knuckles. What do we have here? A curious little pest. Come looking for things that don't concern her. What do we do with our pest, Galena? Galena puts her hand on the shotgun barrel. We break and Vasilisa, and then we hammer a spike through each of their throats, so anyone who sees their bodies knows not to meddle in our affairs. I suggest you stay where you are, pest. No. It sucks that they always get to go first. Cool story. But there's not much you can do if I'm hiding around the corner. Duncan, you can go here. Do you have any? No. So, looks like it'll just have to end there. Ow. Isabel, why aren't you shooting? Isabel, you should be shooting. Thank you. At least I'd hit. As I miss. There we go. A small PDA is set up on the table, the dull glow of the screen illuminating the face surface around it. It does not appear to be locked. Sitting next to the PDA is an unmarked keycard of some kind. Check recent emails. Nadir OS 311 email client. Please select a file. Get ready to move. Vasilia, we've got a window for the shipment. We're going to have to go to the harbor in the next few hours. Tell Galena and the others to pack up everything you've got and get ready to haul it through the storm drain towards the meeting spot. You can't afford to miss this opportunity. Yaroslav. Alright, get ready to move. Hey Yaroslav, Alexander's still not back from his scouting trip yet. He said he found a stockroom behind Miss Yang's Jade's Mountain restaurant. There were also a bunch of key cards for it. Belonged to some woman named Magpie. He's out through it now. We can't just leave him behind. Can't you delay this handoff a few more hours? Can't delay. Find a key to Magpie's stockroom. Search Magpie's stockroom. Okay. No, Vasilisa, I can't delay the handoff. The ship will leave when it leaves. If Alexander's not back in time to make it, it's his own damn fault. Now get your crew in high gear and make sure we've got the goods by the time things are set. Yaroslav. Leave the PDA. Anything else in here? Nope. It looks like we can. The food. Despite the table's crude construction, an artfully laid meal awaits the owner. Several small dishes are filled with pickled vegetables, while a larger plate is arranged with long slices of raw meat. The meat is a pale pinkish white like raw pork and is covered in a light soy marinade. Let's leave it alone. Baramentos. The box is packed full of odds and ends. It nearly overflows with a collection of knickknacks, souvenirs, and assorted personal effects. There is no rhyme or reason to the collection of items. They appear to have been thrown in haphazardly. Among the content are charms from various temples, a wooden mask, and a paper fan. Examine the mask. The wooden mask is extremely light. It's been painted a pale white, and the surface is almost as smooth as porcelain. Delicate features and lifted eyebrows are matched with bright red lips and delicate carved teeth. The teeth have been stained a deep black. Charms. The small charms are a square cloth packet, each approximately 1 inch wide and 3 inches tall. They come in a variety of bright colors and are embroidered with characters for prosperity, peace, wealth, and protection. Inside each appears to be a folded paper prayer or fortune written in Japanese. Examine the fan. Unfolding the fan, you tilt it upwards and the light to examine it. The image depicts an East Asian city from the 19th century or earlier. Curved roofs at sunset beside a deep blue river. 2 ships sail down the river, which is in turn spanned by a long wooden bridge. In the foreground, laborers carry buckets along the shores as men on horseback ride in the opposite direction. In the distance, a pair of large red buildings dominate the city's skyline. 1 large temple hall and a 5-tiered pagoda. Leave it alone. As you step away from the box, you hear a slight click in the distance. The sound of the door latch shutting. You are no longer in the storeroom alone. Standing before you is a man clad in heavy armor and bearing a katana on his hip. His skin is an ashen grey, his eyes dead white, his teeth are jagged and appear quite sharp. This is no man. This is a ghoul. The ghoul's blind eyes search back and forth as it regards you. It cannot see you, but you have a sense that it knows exactly where you are at all times. Ah, a hired gun, no doubt brought to bear against me by the Whampoa elders. A means by which they can lift the curse plaguing them. I salute your tenacity, but I wonder, will you hear me out before raising your weapon to kill me? You're a ghoul, and you're talking? Yes, I am not only talking, I am reasoning as well. And since you have not attempted to kill me, your own higher faculties are engaged. I am a curiosity to you. The ghoul bares his teeth, breath rasping over them as he inhales. You wish to know not only what I am, but what I have done. As for who, you might call me Gaiju. I know who you are. You're the one killing the Whampoa elders. You are correct. I have killed all the Whampoa elders to date. Their only elder magpie was according to my initial plan. In regard the deaths of the other elders, but it was necessary. What does Gaichu mean? Harmful insect. It's the name I have taken for myself, since the word is usually applied to pests, especially ones who drink blood, such as leeches and mosquitoes. The first character means injury or evil influence. The second means insect or worm. This affair began simple enough. As you may surmise, I am not someone who can be seen in public without great risk. Whampoa Garden is an excellent place to hide. No police or dryad presence. And minimal interest in things that lurk in the shadows. Unfortunately for me, Elder Ning discovered me through communion with her spirits. Rather than kill or chase me away, she came with a proposition. Ning and the other elder were having problems with one in their number. An elder named Magpie had been holding many of their plans hostage and would not budge. They could not remove Magpie, however, because her services were too useful to the Whampoans at large. Ning offered me payments to dispose of Magpie, and I accepted. Wu shoots a sideways glance, tusks bared and grits his jaw. Why the hell are we talking to this thing, Lady Nightbot? It's a goddamn ghoul, and you know what they're like. Really? What, pray tell, am I like? All teeth and claws and bad matters, I expect? Gaichu's tone is amused, despite the harshness and the rasp of his voice. Really? You want to crack jokes, you cannibal? Wu takes an involuntary step forward, raising his rifle. You're the kind of monster that devoured a family just because it's convenient. Remember the 162s, Lady Nightbot? It's just like them. The 162s were a gang, Wu, in the Barrens. That makes a bit of difference. Go on then, talk to the monster, but I'm keeping my finger on the goddamn trigger. I believe that you were speaking of Elder's plans to have me kill Magpie? Surely you must be a little curious about it. You didn't clean up all of her blood. I've found some in her drain. Ah, unfortunate. I had thought I was careful enough. Having it on my hands must have obscured my sense of smell, enough that I missed the last remnants in the drain. I disposed Magpie's body by emptying the blood in her bathroom. Then I cut her up into more portable pieces. Those were placed in a plastic tarp, which I took to the storm drain and hid. Gaiju nonchalantly waves his hand, his tone flat and unconcerned. Unfortunately, but my survival depends upon consumption of raw metahuman flesh. Letting such nourishment go to waste would be a foolish error. But why kill the other elders then? I contacted the elders, not in person of course, and they arranged to exchange payment. I assumed that since the job was done, Ning would be a woman of her word. Baring his teeth, Gaichu hisses his next words across his teeth. I was mistaken. I arrived at the nearby parking garage the elders had told me about. They cleared out the other Whampoans under some pretense, though I am not sure what the ruse they used. The elders never showed up. Instead, several members of the Hong Kong police force arrived. They were more heavily armed than usual, so I suspected they knew something of my nature. I saw scarring on the concrete from bullets and blades. You killed them with a sword? And my hands, yes. My blindness precludes the use of ranged weapons, unfortunate. Since I was an excellent shot before I became infected. But my skills in grappling and kenjutsu have only increased. A battle of swords is a clash of souls. Mine was stronger than theirs, and they perished. A betrayal of that sort cannot stand. Not only was I not paid for my time and effort, the Whampoan elders treat me like a common animal. And I am so much more than that. Reputation is everything, and I had none. I had hoped to rebuild a network of contacts so that I would be able to continue finding work. But that was treachery. My hopes were dashed, and I decided to become a monster they had feared. One by one, I have eliminated them. They know how to contact me, and I could have ended their nightmares at any time by making amends. I would have asked for more money, but I would have ceased my hunt. Yet they did not. Instead, they contacted you, no doubt asking you to eliminate me where the police had failed. So I ask you, what now? What will you do? Will you attempt to finish what the Whampoans started? Or will you treat me with the same humanity I have shown you? Let me ask you some questions. Very well, what would you like to know? Did you eat the elders? Some of them, not all. My condition requires that I consume raw metahuman flesh. I do not require a great deal to survive, perhaps 3 or 4 pounds per week. Consequently, there is vastly more supply than demand. Is this from your armor? Ah yes, I felt a ragged edge on one of my shoulder plates. I assumed it was removed when one of the police officers shot at me with his rifle. The hazards of war include unkept attire, unfortunately. Why would the elders have you killed instead of paying you? Any number of reasons. They are notorious cheapskates and will always try to save money when dealing with outsiders. It could be their natural inclination towards profit. They may regard me as subhuman, and therefore unworthy of respect. It could be that they felt I was too dangerous to allow to live. It could even be that they simply do not like me. The net result is the same, however. They have renegade on a deal we brokered and attempted to have me killed. A message must be sent. Blood must be paid. As they have hired you to kill me, I have obviously not learnt their lesson. If I let you live, what would you do? Kill the rest of the elders, and anyone else they sent to examine me. It is a matter of survival. Should I ever have the opportunity to work freelance again, potential employees need to understand the price of betrayal. These murderers are my curriculum vitae in revenge. I've made my decisions. Come work with me. I can be your face. A curious offer. And what of the elders? Will you allow me the satisfaction of killing them? I want to see what they have to say first. I would counsel you not believe their words. But you have sound of one of those is weary of the matter, of course. Very well. Let us wait until the bit later in the night. Most pedestrians will be off the streets, and it will be easier for us to approach the opponent without being noticed. Sounds like a good plan. As you approach, Elder Ning's eyes widen. Her mouth falls open, and the veins on her neck bulge. What are you doing with... What are you doing? You've brought this thing into our home. Quick, kill it before it kills us. Porter Lamb hefts his pistol wearily, but doesn't aim it at anyone. Yeah, I have to say, this isn't a good idea. Why the hell is a ghoul in here, and why is it wearing armor? Calm yourselves, I am not an it, and your elders know this immensely. Gaichu bares his teeth in a reckless grin. Sorry, I was opening something. In a grin, and turns it to face Ning. Good evening, Elder Ning. I can smell your fear, and I'm glad of this. It means you are learning the price of betrayal. Whoa, what on earth is going on here? Can someone explain to me why the ghoul is talking? Gaichu had a contract with the elders and they betrayed him. You dare accuse us of conspiring with a monster and covering it up? You're insane. The very idea is preposterous. Porter nods at the elder, looking back at you with a weary expression. I'm interested to hear what kind of evidence you have to say about this theory, Lady Nightbot. As far as I can tell, this monster killed Tong and the others, and that makes him a threat that should be eliminated. The elders hired Gaichu to kill Elder Magpie and make it look like she disappeared. You believe in this vermin? This creature that feasts on metahuman flesh, that kills and dismembers our tribesmen? You are a native and foolish woman if that's the case. Ning spits on the ground in front of Gaichu. What proof do you have that Magpie is dead? Ning blaze. In a matter where an elder is accused of breaking a law, the other elders generally judge them. In matters where all of them have been accused, I am authorized to act as the judge. Make your case, Shadowrunner. I found Magpie's necklace in the storm drains. Porter takes it for a moment and examines the necklace. He nods to you. This is definitely Elder Magpie's. If you found it in the storm drain, that's suspicious, but hardly proof on its own. Of course it is not proof. The number of things lost down storm drains in Hong Kong must number in the tens of thousands per year. While unusual, it's hardly evidence without foul play. There was a large amount of blood in her shower drain. So what? Perhaps she cut herself and watched it cut off. Perhaps you're mistaken about being blood. You're simply guessing as to what happened. That's true. It's a guess, and even if it's her blood, it doesn't prove that elders hired the ghouls to kill her. Porter gives Elder Ip a sidelong glance. The elders have always protected Whampoa Garden to the best of their ability. She hasn't been seen in a month. Not by anyone. She wouldn't have disappeared like that. That may be unlikely, but it's hardly impossible. You haven't established that the elders were involved. All you've done is make superstitions about it. What proof do you have that we hired and betrayed this creature? I won't sit by and listen to an idle accusation without any kind of concrete evidence to back it up. What about a fight with the Hong Kong police force? How do you mean? What does that have to do with the elders and the ghouls? The evidence in the garage points towards a fight with someone using a sword. We allowed the police in the Whampoa Garden because they were hunting someone. They'd never told us who or why they were looking for their quarry. It didn't have anything to do with us. Gaichu hisses through clenched teeth, addressing Portland. It was only in the garage to collect payment from them. The ordinary residents were warned of the Hong Kong police force's arrival and were gone by the time I arrived. That's suspicious, I admit. Porter regards Elder for a long moment. It still doesn't prove the elders knew that it was a ghoul. This is a piece of Gaichu's armor I found in the garage. Markings on it prove it. You point out the armor's markings to Porter, and he nods with some satisfaction. This is from his armor, definitely, but how does it prove that the elders knew of the ghoul's existence? The police officers were abnormally armed and armored, with much heavier gear than a normal patrol. They were armed with armor-piercing discarded sabot rounds. That's hardly standard issue. Laser weapons wouldn't have broken that armor plate. If all they were looking for was a common fugitive, why be prepared for a fight of that magnitude? Obviously they knew what they were searching for. That doesn't mean we did. Your Whampoans don't allow police inside the area. What makes this an exception this time? The police were polite and asked our permission into entry. They were hunting a non-Whampoan. That was reason enough for us to allow them in. Porter considers this for a moment and shakes his head. That doesn't add up, Ning. Why would the police ask for entry now? They've never been polite before. They've always tried to force their way in here. It just doesn't ring true to me. Did you ask them to come in order to hunt down these ghouls? Preposterous, Porter. You know that our community is like. We wouldn't lie over something like this. This ghoul has been lying the entire time, trying to cover his tracks. He's still brutally murdered several elders. That's true. Those murders were vicious and cruel. Porter fixes you with hard stare. I don't see any way to explain that away. This ghoul is a monster for how he killed Tong and the others. Tong wasn't tortured. There was no actual residues of pain or fear. He didn't even feel the blow. That is correct. I struck a single blow while his back was to me. His death was instant. Regrettable that he had to die for your folly, Ning, but necessary to protect my reputation. Ning glares at Gaiju in stony silence before addressing Porter. You cannot believe what these people have to say. They are not to be trusted, and even if it is true, he still killed Tong. Porter looks back at Ning, his expression flat and without emotion. Maybe so, Ning, but a monster would not have taken Tong's suffering into account. He may be a killer, but he's not heartless. I believe you. The blood smeared on the walls, the removal of his skin. That's a scene designed to invoke horror, not the scene of an actual fight. Elders, what do you have to say in your response? This is a farce. We have to dedicate ourselves to protecting the Whampoan tribe and everyone who lives in the Whampoa Gardens. Do you really believe an outsider and a monster over our word? We who have only tried to end the killings? You have been duped, Porter. You and the Shadowrunner. I concur. Porter, you know me. You know the kind of person I am. I wouldn't be the party to kill another elder. I cannot believe we're here to entertain the notion that we have to defend ourselves. We should be disposing of this ghoul instead. Tang narrows his eyes at you, hissing. If you think I'll forget this, you're sorely mistaken. I will not tolerate this kind of insult. The elders were all too happy to have the red spears move into the garage, almost like they wanted to keep the curiosity right out of it. That's right, Ip. You even told me not to go find out what happened with the fight. You said the red spear gangers were moving in and to leave them alone. Why would you tell me not to look into it? I was only trying to protect you from the red spears. They're dangerous, which is why I wanted to deal with them directly. Magpie's gear was missing. Obviously missing. Why didn't Ip tell me that? He would have had to have noticed that Magpie's shop is locked up. Why didn't he want me to investigate? Pure superstition. You think it proves something that I didn't notice equipment was missing? Magpie's shop is always in a horrible mess. Tang, you did a full inventory of Magpie's Matrix servers. You assured us everything was running fine and you would be able to continue her work. I find it hard to believe you missed something as obvious as missing equipment, especially while searching her stock. That's all I got. Alright, I think I've got some idea of what's going on here. And do you believe the story is real? Gaiju seems to be telling the truth. Elders, too many facts don't add up. You are obviously hiding something. Possibly a great deal from the rest of the tribe. I'm sorry, but I have to take you into custody until the community can decide the extent and matter of your punishment. That would seem appropriate for me, especially given that they kept up this charade, even to you, one of their most trusted citizens. Don't you dare talk to me like that, you disgusting beast! Ip begins to raise his weapon. Porter reaches out to stop him. Ip reluctantly stops. Ip, no. Don't make this any worse for yourself than it is. Porter turns to face you. Thank you, Lady Nightbot. I'll make certain that justice is met out. You are free to go, and I will ensure payment is delivered to you. So long as you take Gaiji with you, I can't have him staying here. He'll be coming with me. As you exit the Whampoa into the sweltering night air of the Kowloon streets, Gaiji turns to face you. I confess, I am unhappy with the decision to allow the Whampoa elders to live. We should have killed them, if for no other reason than to maintain our reputation. That's why I let them live. That's how we do things. Gaiji bows to you, head held very low. I can accept this. I am unused to working with Shadowrunners. I assumed you would see things as I do. Hopefully there is much I can learn from you. Shall we leave this place? I am eager to be done with the Whampoa Gardens. Yay, karma! Let's go to the MTR station. We are now officially done with this particular level. I forgot how long it is. Wait. The MTR rockets noiselessly towards Hui, along the edge of the Kowloon Bay. The black water glitters with the night of the light of 1,000 reflected storefronts. Gaiju stares sightlessly out the window, one hand pressed to the glass. The plot by the elders is exposed, and Porter Lamb is in your debt. You have a new ally in the respect of the Whampoans. Sometimes everything goes right on a job. You count yourself lucky this was one of those times. Jobs directory. Claim payment. From Aunti Cheng to Lady Nightbot. The Whampoans tell me that they've ousted all of their council elders. Something to do with you exposing their efforts to cover up their own mess. It isn't the resolution I expected, but I think it's acceptable. If there's one thing I don't trust, it's people who won't pay what they owe me. Thankfully, the Whampoans are more reliable than Ning and her allies, and so am I. Your payment is attached, Aunti Cheng. No, back. Walk away. Alrighty, so I'm going to save it here. This was a slightly longer... Why can I not save? Exit the main menu. Why can I not... Why is it not letting me save? Unless it's using autosave features, which is probably likely. There we go. I'd like to thank you all for joining me tonight. Dream Penguin loves you and wishes you the good Z's. See you next time.